If you want a potential warm-up, whether you want to call it a sponge or EQ, perhaps have them to share stories about times where, depending on the age group, they have driven an extra distance to go for cheaper gas, or their parents, older brother, sister, relative, etc. has driven, and ask for any extreme stories. Make it a humorous thing. The more you get them into it and really thinking about this and the absurdity of it possibly, the more they're going to be interested in actually figuring it out. I did have some students that went home and actually told their parents about this, and parents continued to try to just argue that it's worth it. Well, you don't understand. I mean, it's really cheap over there, but it's also really far. And they don't think about that. They just focus on the savings, but not the cost that it takes. If you have not taken the time to prep your students for solving word problems, here are a few steps that may help you out. Number one, organize information by what it measures. In other words, put all your distances together, times together, and velocities, whatever, general things together, and then label what they are. You'll see later on when I actually show you the formula that we came up with, the importance and how much having proper labels on things can actually help you out when it comes to setting up and solving problems. Number two, make sure all the units match up. The same way you can't combine 3x and 4y adding together to give you 7xy is the same reason you can't put feet and miles together. You have to convert one to the other, and then you can combine the two. 3, a diagram for our visual learners, or bump that, really anybody, is very helpful. So please make sure that you get them used to drawing diagrams and labeling them fully, making sure all the information that is in that word problem is represented some kind of way visually on the diagram. 4th, find a formula that uses the information that you have. If you've got the distance and you got the time, then you may be looking for a velocity. Of course, if you, say, had a principal and you had an interest rate, you may be looking for a balance, monthly payment, that kind of thing. You have to tweak that, of course, for whatever section or thing you're covering. Clearly, this is also physics or physical science related, one of the same processes. 5 is, of course, working it out, making it happen. Charles Edgar Hampton here, just trying to help out my fellow math teachers that are in the field and struggling, trying to figure out how are they going to implement the CCGPS standards. Of course, if you went to any of the training, one of the things that they want you to do is increase the rigor. They also want you to increase the relevance. Part of doing that is going to be increasing their critical thinking skills, is going to be working on their analytical skills, is going to give them the opportunity to create equations or functions from different scenarios, word problems, basically giving them less information to work with. Therefore, they have to think more, do more reading between the lines, as in a matter of speaking. And so the first problem that I gave my students is this problem. And basically, it's based on the real-life scenario of if you're trying to fill your gas tank up, and over here you have a gas station, let's say, selling gas for maybe 5 or 6 cents less, is it worth driving, 4 or 5 miles for that, 5 or cent difference in gas? We all do it. Now, if you're honest with yourself, sometimes we do make that trek or whatever for the 6, 7, 3, 4, 5 cent difference, whatever. But are those pennies really worth it? So, of course, it just depends on the gas mileage of the car or the SUV. It depends on, what the distance is. And so basically I start off using my own car, which is a Honda Accord, and using actual real numbers and real values to create that scenario. So let's get started on seeing how that went. You need to fill up your car that gets 27 miles per gallon and has a 17.1 gallon gas tank. There is a gas station 5.3 miles from your house. The price for regular unleaded there is $3.709 per gallon. The gas station that is 0.62 miles from your house, however, has regular unleaded at $3.749 per gallon. Assume you are filling up from zero. Mathematically prove that you should or should not drive to the other gas station farther away with the cheaper gas. One of the first things, of course, that you want your students to do is to draw a diagram and have it fully and properly labeled with all distances, values, and other information from the equation or word problem. Find the total gas savings by taking the price of gas at the expensive gas station and subtract that from the price of gas at the cheap station. Realize that this is only the amount for 1 gallon and you need to fill your tank. So now take the gas savings amount and multiply it by the tank capacity. This now gives you the total amount of money you saved by filling up at the cheaper gas station. Big money, right? Now, some students may calculate this by determining the total cost to fill up the tank at each gas station. This can be done by multiplying the price of gas at one station by the tank capacity and then repeating for that cost at the other station. Then you subtract the two and you get the same value. Once that is done, you then need to determine the cost of driving to the cheaper gas station. This is done by calculating the difference in the distances between the closer and farther stations. This extra distance, or ED, is important because either way you go, you cover the distance to the closest gas station. The issue is how much does that extra distance cost you. So subtract the distance of the closer, expensive station from the distance of the farther, cheaper station. That tells you how much farther you had to drive. Now remember, you can't drive without burning gas, so you have to calculate how much gas you use to drive there. You do this by taking the extra distance and dividing this by the mileage, or miles per gallon. Once this is done, you now have the amount of gas it takes to drive to that cheaper gas station. Now, gas is not free. To figure out the cost, multiply the cheap gas price by the amount of gas in gallons, and you have how much it costs to drive to that cheaper station. So again, two distances to the gas station, subtract those two, multiply by the price per gallon, and divide by the gas mileage. Finally, subtract the savings for filling up and the cost to get the cheap gas station, and you have your total savings. Let me know in the comments section whether you have been saving or wasting money. Also, if you take your distance and divide it by the average miles per hour of your trip, say 45 miles an hour, you can get the time it took to get to that cheaper gas station. For example, the one I used, it has 7 minutes worth of a trip. This is the equivalent of the cheaper gas station calling and saying, "Sir, you left a nickel here. Please come back and get it." Not many people would drive 7 minutes, risking accidents and tickets for a simple nickel, but millions do it all the time. What is your experience trying to find cheaper gas? That's all for today. Thank you for joining me, Charles Edgar Hampton. Look forward to seeing you hopefully visit once I get the website running at hamptonmathteacher.com. God bless and peace.